As far as the starter project, everything should look very familiar because we just need to get the zip file and then grab the folder. Now, of course, you can rename it, but in my case, I'll leave it the way it is. I do want to open up my text editor, make the window a little bit smaller, then drag and drop. And then, of course, in this case, we're using Firefox. So I'll open up a new window, then set them side by side, like so. Of course, this is going to be my smaller one. And then I'll open up a new instance on a bigger browser window as well. Now, of course, I do need to spit up my dev server. So I'll do that using my extension. Now, in this case, I'm just using a shortcut, but then the long way would be this one. Again, right click and then Visual Studio Code, preview server. That's the one that I'm using. And then we'll take a look at the files in a second. I just also want to set up new tab on a bigger browser window. So that's going to be index.html. So now, of course, I have access to my project on a bigger browser window. And then as far as the assets, again, everything should look very, very familiar. We have font awesome icons. We have the images that we'll use. We have the JavaScript that we'll use. We have videos that we'll use, more specifically one video. And then we have multiple pages over here, as well as examples.txt and page examples. Now I'll talk about them as we're setting up different pages. So I don't want to waste your time at the moment. The only thing that I would want to showcase, I guess, is the style CSS, where most of the stuff, again, is going to look exactly the same like we have done before. As far as the big projects, again, notice I have my primary color. I'm using different shades of that primary color. There's darker shades, there's lighter shades. In this case, I'm using the yellow color. Now, if you don't like my color, as always, just change the value here, for example, from yellow to blue. And then you'll have your own unique colors. Now, then we have colors that are gray. So, of course, gray color with multiple shades from lighter all the way to a darker one. We have our fonts. Of course, on top here, we're just importing those fonts. Then the rest of the variables should look, again, very familiar. We have used them before. Now, for the global styles, I did add after and before because there's going to be quite a few instances where we'll set them up. So that's why I right away added with universal selector, just so I can have my box sizing set to border box. I have right away my nav logo included in my not selector. So effectively all the images will have width of 100 apart from the nav logo, because that's the one that will use its own width. Then again, we have set up for heading 1 and heading 4 and all that paragraph. And then the media query for the different screen sizes. We have our generic button selector. So this is going to be our button. And then if you would want to override something, then of course we'll just add another class. Section is just going to be padding for all the sections. We have section center. And this is the case where in the previous project, we already set up the global class. So in this case, we are just skipping a little bit and I'm already adding in a starter project. Again, this is something that we already covered in the previous projects. And then of course, we just have a comments where we'll add our own code. So that should be a basic setup for our starter project. So let's get to work.